The Biden administration has been unapologetic in pushing for the censorship of Americans on topics ranging from COVID to elections to pretty much anything that they consider to be politically inconvenient or something they don't want the American people finding out more about. This is perhaps the biggest development for free speech and the First Amendment in recent memory, which is Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter, which was finalized. And it's resulted in the leadership of Twitter being essentially fired by Musk. And the liberals are aghast because, as you know, the totalitarian left that is seeking to control and censor your speech online relies on fronts like Twitter to do their dirty deeds for them. It's not only their ideological allies that are pushing Twitter or have been pushing Twitter to censor people who have conservative views or who have out of the mainstream views as far as the establishment is concerned, but you've also had government agencies pushing Twitter and other big tech companies to censor Americans in contravention of the First Amendment. Judicial Watch found and proved that was the case, at least with the California Secretary of State, who were suing for them getting YouTube to take down a video that I had made for Judicial Watch on election integrity. Even the Republican Secretary of State of Iowa was caught trying to censor Judicial Watch, pushing Twitter to try to censor us. California Secretary of State was pushing Twitter to censor Americans. And of course, the Biden administration has been unapologetic in pushing for the censorship of Americans on topics ranging from COVID to elections to pretty much anything that they consider to be politically inconvenient or something they don't want the American people finding out more about. So now the big question for Elon Musk is what he's going to do. And this is what I think he ought to do. He ought to unban accounts like President Trump's, who was banned for political purposes, using January 6th as the pretext. They need to uncensor the ability to debate controversial topics such as COVID, vaccines, and disputes about COVID policy. There's censorship on Twitter in the debate about transgender extremism. There is restraint or restrictions on Twitter about still election controversies. And if they don't censor you outright, they're likely to label and suppress your tweet in a way that is effectively censorship. So now what's going to happen is Musk is going to be targeted. He already has been targeted by the left. I semi-joked earlier that the left's Eye of Sauron from Lord of the Rings has settled its gaze on Elon Musk. And you can bet the Biden administration is going to pressure and target Musk over his management of Twitter. Certainly the EU, some left-wing socialist bureaucrat from France and the EU threatened Musk and Twitter, saying they're going to have to play by our rules, which of course is rules that would require censorship of Americans in contravention of any notions of free speech or in my view, the First Amendment. You know, and despite what you hear from the dishonest left, the First Amendment does apply, in my view at least, to these big tech platforms. There are two issues: whether the First Amendment applies, and when they're acting at the behest of the government, they are acting as government agents. And generally speaking, these platforms are like public utilities, and you have a right to access that without fear of being targeted because of your speech. And secondly, there's this business ethics issue, and there's this rule of law issue where they are targeting people because of their conservative speech or speech that is politically inconvenient to the left-wing crowd, and they're telling government regulators, they're testifying to Congress, and they're telling consumers and telling users that they're being censored for other reasons. That it's just regular moderation and there's no targeting. And that simply isn't true. We've shown it isn't true, and it's easily demonstrated it isn't true. So when you lie to shareholders, when you lie to regulators, when you lie to Congress, when you lie to consumers, those raise questions of fraud that should be investigated, in my view, by law enforcement. And Elon Musk, he's probably not going to want to hear this, but he needs to expose the corruption of Twitter. He needs to highlight and figure out what Twitter had been misusing shareholder dollars to accomplish, which is to advance the interest of government agencies, also to advance the interests of political forces, specifically the Democrats and the Biden campaign. Remember, they were suppressing the New York Post story about Hunter's laptop, Twitter, and some of these other big media platforms, big tech platforms. So if I had purchased an entity for $44 billion, I'd like to know what the heck they've been doing beforehand that caused so much controversy to make sure it doesn't happen again. So Musk should embrace free speech. He should embrace the First Amendment. And as importantly, he should expose what went on before he took over the company so that it doesn't happen again. And he said repeatedly that he's doing this in the public interest. He's interested in advancing humanity, as the word he uses. But as an American citizen, as an American company, I would hope he would make it a priority to protect the free speech rights of American citizens from predations by the government that have used companies like Twitter to go after innocent Americans. And so we'll see what happens. Judicial Watch is on Twitter. I've been on Twitter. I was locked out of Twitter for several months because I innocently tweeted. I guess it wasn't so innocent. I knew what I was doing, but I knew it was accurate. An accurate tweet about hydroxychloroquine. I knew it was accurate. I tweeted it. Twitter had received complaints about it, and they told me specifically there was nothing wrong with the tweet. And then January 8th, 2021, which I think it's not coincidental, it was around the same time that Trump was thrown off, they told me I needed to delete that tweet or I'd be locked out. And I didn't want to delete the tweet, and I didn't delete it for at least, I think it was 10 months by the time I decided to come back on. And they ignored my appeal. I said, look, you had approved this before. Why are you telling me I can't tweet this again? They ignored it. And just a real contempt for the free speech rights of not only me, but of course of Judicial Watch. And this is the important thing. When they go after someone like me, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I do lead one of the largest grassroots organizations in the country, a major government watchdog group, and what better favor for the Biden administration than to shut my voice down and suppress the voice of Judicial Watch as the Biden administration comes in and starts doing what it did. And of course, it's a general, we're also a general watchdog, and of course it protects all sorts of other politicians as well, both Democrat, frankly, and Republican. So that's what Twitter's about. They were about censoring people dishonestly. And now I hope Elon Musk is true to his word and starts bringing people back onto the platform who have been denied access. And just to the degree that Twitter or big tech companies want to censor, obviously pornography, obscenity, violence, and threats like that, that's illegal. That's legal activity. That sort of activity can be censored. It's not speech, but speech that's censored, that really shouldn't be happening on these supposedly neutral big tech platforms. And if they're not going to be neutral, then they should be treated like publications and be subject to the same restraints and rules and laws that publications are treated. And that means that if someone comes on and defames you on a platform, then you should be liable. Because if you're going to play editor, then you're playing you're a publication, and you're not the sort of entity that's envisioned under federal law as being sort of a neutral bulletin board. So these companies have wanted to have their cake and eat it too, which is they wanted to play editor and put their thumb on the scale on behalf of politicians and attack their political opponents while pretending they're neutral. And that's a big lie. That's a big lie. And let's hope it ends, and let's hope we get more free speech. And the left is going to be very nasty towards Elon Musk. And it doesn't mean I agree with Musk on all of his policies and everything he says. I mean, that's not the issue. The issue is this someone who wants to protect the rule of law and protect free speech? And when you see a group go after that, we should rally around it. And so to the degree Musk is going to be on the side of free speech, we should be supporting it. And in the meantime, we're not going to put all our eggs in Twitter's basket. Judicial Watch and I are on Truth Social, Parler, Rumble. What other alternative sites are there? Telegram, Getter, Gettr, and of course we're on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. We have a lawsuit, as I said, against California Secretary of State over their getting YouTube to censor a video. So this censorship issue ain't going away, and Twitter is just one part of the battle, but it's a significant one, and I hope Facebook and YouTube, and because YouTube is owned by Google, so you know, start following Elon Musk's lead and start focusing on empowering their users rather than treating them like children or like cogs in the left-wing Marxist political machine. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.